Hi everyone and welcome to another video. On this particular one, I wanted to talk a little bit about an unsung hero within Ableton Live, and this is Sampler. So Sampler is, for me, is the most powerful instrument within Ableton, and not that many people actually know how to use it properly. They understand that you can do multi-sampling, but the actual creative possibilities within Sampler in terms of sound design are insanely vast. So in this particular video, I'm going to be talking about drum sounds, and I'm going to be showing you ways that we can design kicks, potentially touch a little bit on snares. As you know, my name is Hector as well. I produce under the alias of Hektagon, and I've been making electronic music for well over 30 years, as you can see. And also, I've been teaching music production for the last 14 years, but I decided to go solo. So I was working for very well-known music production schools, but now I am going my own direction, and I'm going to be making a few more videos that are going to help you guys out in order to gain new knowledge for your music production. So anyway, let's get started. I'm just going to share Ableton. Amazing. So as you can see here, I've got this project, and you can see I've got a selection of drums. I've got some breakbeats as well. I have it, basically what I've got is I've got a MIDI track there, right? As you can see at the top. So this is cool. You can see the selection there and the MIDI channel. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is let's look at Sampler as a way to edit sounds. So let's start with like an 808 kick. I'm going to show you one technique that can be really cool. So you can see like what I've done is I've got a MIDI channel here, and all I've done is I just drag and drop the sample on this dialog here on the bottom left, sorry, bottom right of the screen. You can see that we got the MIDI tab, and just at the bottom of the screen, we can see that it says there's a dialog there that says drop an instrument or sample here, which basically means that I can take that kick 808 and just drag and drop it in there. At the moment, as you can see, I'm working with Sampler, right? But another thing that we can do is we can right click on Sampler and we can convert it to Sampler. So there you go, right? So let's hustle, right? You can see it's nice, and we can see the entire kick drum. So first things first that we can do in Sampler is adding manipulation. But basically we can manipulate the sample in many ways. So let me just demonstrate that for you. I'm just going to do like a simple 4/4. I'm going to maybe do like a 1/2/6 just to keep it kind of easy going. I'm going to just quickly add just a note and just loop that. I just feel, there you go, the lazy way. And now if I press play on the clip, we are going to be able to hear that keep playing, right? Not that exciting. Okay, let's maybe open it up a little bit so you can see that we've got on the filter and global section, we can extend the length of the sample. Let's extend that a little bit. Just add a little bit more release. Cool. So first things first that we can do in Sampler, which is insanely cool, is this. We can add extra character on the pitch of the kick. So the way to do this is by using this oscillator, as you can see here, and this adds frequency modulation. So frequency modulation is kind of like the opposite of filtering, right? It's basically adding more character to the sound. So with a filter, you take energy away. With FM modulation, you modulate the frequency of a sound and you add more harmonics. You add more complexity to the sound. So let's have a listen to what that sounds on the kick. And the envelope, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dial it down so it only adds character at the start of the kick drum, just at the beginning. So let's have a listen to that. Let's set this as well to fixed frequency so we can dial in on a specific frequency to the kick. Right, let's bring it up. So as you can hear, that kick drum, we add in extra energy just at the start of the kick. We can make it shorter. As a way to kind of add a little bit more punch. We can play around with the volume if you want more intensity or less intensity. If I turn it off, you can see it adds more bite. And if, of course, we can make the frequency much higher. Maybe there. And let's make the decay a little bit shorter. There you go. Of course, if we increase the volume a lot, eventually it becomes kind of like a noise kind of texture. If the volume is too high, the modulation is so extreme, that becomes kind of noise. Right, you can hear that. But very low volumes can be really nice. As a way to add a little bit more energy at the start of the kick, right? So that can be really cool. Again, this can also be a much higher rate, as you can see here. So we can multiply this frequency times 10, that means that that's going to be 3,400 hertz. So it's even more metallic and high pitch. But I think for a kick, I don't know, let's keep it quite low. We can explore. I think around 340 sounded quite good, but you can explore, you just use your ear and see what fits. It's too low, I think. So I think the original we had was better. There, that's cool. Another thing that we can do is we've got a pitch envelope. So if we felt that that kick didn't have enough punch, we can add a little bit of movement with the pitch envelope as well. So you can see as I dial it in, we get more movement at the start of the kick, right? So we are increasing the pitch just at the start of the kick drum. And that can be a nice way to sort of add a little bit more bite. I'm going to do just like 1 octave, 12 semitones, just a little bit at the start of the kick drum. Obviously, if you go really high, we got a really punchy kick, which I quite like. Can you hear that? That's 48 semitones. Let's shorten the decay. I prefer it before. This works so well because this sample is particularly long. Okay, it's a very long sample, as you can see there. It's an 808 kick, right? And you're like, okay, interesting, Hector, that sounds cool. What else can we do? All right. Another thing that we could do if we wanted to shape the style of the kick drum is using a shaper. And the shaper here can add distortion onto the kick itself, right? So we can go. Right? If that's the sound you're after. Of course, we can also use the filter to emphasize potentially the low end of the sample if you want it, right? So I'm going to use like an MS-20 filter because I love the character it brings. Remember, the MS-20 is based on the Korg MS-20 synth, which sounds really fat. It's probably one of the fattest synths on the planet. So I'm going to bring the frequency down and let's dial up the resonance to add more weight to the low end of the kick. Again, I'm not looking at the spectrum analyzer here in this particular instance. I'm just using my ears, right? So let's have a listen. Maybe less slow, but let's go 12 dB instead. That's nice. We can even add a little bit of drive from this distortion too. But I don't like the shaper just affecting the kick so much. So let's turn it off. Let's turn the filter off. Yeah, you can hear the fatness introduced with the filter. And again, the pitch oscillator, turn it off. That was the original kick. Nice. But there's another little trick that you can do that's really cool. In Sampler, we've got a modulation tab, which is just right there. And in the modulation tab, we've got LFOs. So we got basically, we've got 3 LFOs to play with, but we also have got an auxiliary envelope. And this auxiliary envelope can do quite a lot of different things to the sound. So first things first is this. I'm going to turn on the auxiliary envelope, right? And I'm going to dial up, basically, I'm going to select here in the destination, I'm going to select the amount of distortion. What do I mean by that? Okay, well here you can see that we got the shaper amount. And I'm going to dial it up like 100%. It basically means that the distortion caused by the shaper, which is active now, we can't decide when the distortion happens rather than the distortion being constant, right, which will be the default behavior. We can say, well, I just want to distort maybe just the start of the kick, not the full body of the kick. Just listen to it, you'll understand straight away. It's maybe too loud, let's just turn it down a little bit. But look what happens when I start cropping. Remember the shaper amount controlled by the auxiliary envelope, and the shaper amount is here, okay? This is the amount. I'm gonna really go crazy with it. I mean, that's a hard clip as well, just bear that in mind. We can try different shapes. I do love the sign as well, it has a really nice character. But in this particular instance, I want something that's a little bit more gritty, so let's go with the hard clip. But let's go back to the modulation tab and check this out. I'm just gonna bring the sustain all the way down. Ah, can you hear the energy it adds? Look. Nice. Right, And we can try, maybe like we can go back to the filter and be like, oh, maybe I'm going to dial it down. But that's nice, isn't it? And potentially we can try different, like a sine. That's a different kind of feel, can you hear that? But I quite like the hard. And if it's too long, you can always just go here and be like, oh no, I just want to dial it down a bit, you know, let's cut the release. That's cleaner, isn't it? And the decay is very important. Let's turn it down a little bit. Really cool. Let's turn it off. You see? Very nice. So that's one thing that is extremely powerful. And of course, I haven't even talked about the modulation or anything like that. Another thing as well that we can do that is going to blow your mind a little bit is this. I'm going to duplicate the channel because I already got the pattern, but I don't want these samples. In fact, let's just delete sampler. I'm going to start with the same kick, but I'm going to show you something else that's really nice as well. And it's the fact that, okay, so I got the 808 kick, which I quite like it. I'm just going to roll with that for now. I'm going to turn that into sampler, okay? And now you can see that we are back. Right, this is the 808 kick. But what I can also do, remember we got the zone editor here. So in the zone editor in sampler, we can actually do is we can add more layers, we can add more sounds. Remember that if you want to hear multiple samples playing at the same time, you're going to have to up the number of voices, okay? Which are here, the 6 voices. So that's okay, because I'm only going to do a little bit of layering. But look, I've got this massive kick, but I've got another kick here. That's got a nice kind of bite. I'm going to drag and drop that in there. And I'm going to choose another kick as well. Let's find a different one. Maybe that. I quite like that. So this is really cool because if I play the pattern now, we're hearing 3 kicks at the same time. Okay? Can you hear that? So we're hearing the 808, which is that. Right, and we're also hearing this kick 7, which I like, but I don't like the full body of the kick. I like the beginning of the kick. I would like the transient. So one thing that I can do is I can go to that kick that I soloed, and you can see that depending on what you click, you can actually edit the waveform, which is really cool, right? So I can go here and I can be like, okay, cool, let's shorten it. Maybe I prefer this actually. Yeah, that's nice and clean. Like that. That's fairly clean now. And we got the other kick as well, which is again like a very short kick. I maybe just want just that beginning bit. There. I'm going to take the snap off so I can really dial it in. So you can only just hear that if you want it. Even that clicky part. So it's a really nice way to enhance the kicks, right? So what I'm doing is literally uncreate and adding click by adding 2 other kicks, right? So, right, look, this one worked quite nicely. That sounds quite nice. And actually we got independent control of the volume if I want it, so maybe less, or maybe I just want less of the. Maybe I just like that clicky part, but I want it to be really loud. There. Maybe that's a bit too intense, but you get the idea, right? And then the other kick here, let's have a listen to it. Let's bring it back. Yeah, I like that. The only problem that we have is that we don't have basically the controls that we got here for the attack, decay, sustain, and release. They're global controls. So that's one thing that can be a little bit annoying, but still it is pretty cool that I can, for example, just keep that energy as well from that kick and blend them together. And of course I can change the pitch so they kind of work better. I mean, let's have a listen to both. Let's play around with the root here for the kicks 07, and that's going to change the pitch. No, maybe higher. I think I like it there. And then we got the other one, which is adding the click, right? Original kick. Multi-layer kick drums. You can even have a look at the waveforms if you want to line up the movement of the waveform to avoid phasing. Okay, so you can see that that kick starts from the waveform going up. Let's have a look at the next one. Let's see. Okay, that's okay. I mean, it starts on silence, but potentially we could just like fine tune it, be like, okay, cool. So let's start from silence, and then the waveform goes up. That's fine. I mean, we can even fine tune it further if we want it. We could go maybe even here on the waveform movement, or farther down. I mean, another thing that's really important when you work with samples is the fact that changing the start point of the sample can really change the sound. And then the last one, I mean, that's kind of like a noisy kind of texture, but we can fine tune it more. Like I can just go here and be like, okay, let's just move it there. And that sounds more cohesive. What else can we do? Well, we got a filter here, and we can do the same thing that we did before, right? If I wanted to add more oomph to the kick, I can add maybe like a low, like a high pass filter basically, and enhance the low end and even add a little bit of drive. Maybe let's drive. Maybe there, that sounds too much maybe. Start it off. Yeah, that's better, right? And I can add a little bit of drive if I want it. And of course we can reshape the entire pitch of the whole thing if we want it, right? So that can be a really effective way. And of course we can apply FM, and in FM we can also, you can see that sounds a bit funny, right? It's too intense. Let's just bring the decay and make that shorter. That's too much, right? But we can even use noise if we want it. You can add the noise at the beginning to sort of bring a little bit more click if I want it. You can even do funny things as well, like delaying the noise and making the noise come in later. And that kind of turns it into like a snare. Almost, right? Look, if I bring the sustain now, let's make it more obvious. Let's go in. Can you see that? I mean, we can decay, we can play around with this a little bit. There you go, right? Interesting, right? With the noise, when you add FM, you can kind of add like the tonality of something like a snare as well, okay? So that's something I thought I'd share with you. That's not so apparent, but it just gives you a little bit of an idea of what's truly possible within Sampler for sound manipulation and sound design and layering samples together. Of course, I'm only talking about kick drums on this particular video, but everything I just applied here could be applied for a snare, or you could potentially just be like, well, I just want the kind of low end from this kick. I'm just going to show you, because why not? Look, let's just bring it here. Right, so that's very short now. Right, so we got the 3 layers playing. That one is the low end, this one, and that one. And I can layer snare if I want it. You see? And I can tune I mean, I could potentially go here. Right? I'm going to use the snap so there's no click. And I can sort of change the pitch of that, right? So it sounds more like adding energy to the snare. Let's play around with the tuning. Nice. Let's bring the volume. There you go. Can you hear the fatness? Look. It's adding all that energy into the snare. There you go. Or we can maybe extend it a little bit longer. Let's just open the... There. Nice. Nice and fat. And, you know, I could make that much shorter. There you go, right? And we can take as much as the sound out as we like. So this is just another idea that we can recombine sounds together. We can pitch them to make them fit together nicely. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, you know, this is my channel here. This is just me. I'm taking control, so to speak, right? So you're going to be expecting a lot more videos from me in the forthcoming weeks. So yeah, this is the first one of the series. This is the hidden secrets of sampler for kicks, but I'm going to be showing you hidden secrets of sampler for bass sounds on the next one, and for melodic elements as well. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel as always, and of course, leave any comments, or if you've got any questions, I would love to hear from you. So take it easy, guys, and I will talk to you soon.